We're at Ledo, a small township in Upper Assam.
Famous for coal mines, Ledo sits 544 kilometers from the state capital Guwahati, and it is the last railway station at the northeast tip of India.
This is where our story begins. A rare story of raw human courage, guts and gumption. Ledo still echoes with the scattered memories of an unknown story, of a war within World War II. The Stilwell Road, memories of a forgotten war. (1941). The Second World War took a sudden turn due to the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese Army. It literally devastated the Allied forces, comprising British India, the US and the Chinese Army, led by its nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek. The rapidly advancing and seemingly invincible Japanese Army split the Allied forces into two at Burma. The only road link for the Allied forces to China, the Burma Road, had gone under the control of Japanese Army. After having captured Rangoon, the Japanese Army began their sure-footed march towards India. The air was rife with news of defeat of the Allied forces and the Japanese Army's imminent entry into India.
Joseph Warren Stilwell, an American commander of the Allied forces, somehow managed to backtrack into Assam, braving challenging and inhospitable terrain with utmost grit and determination. The Japanese army, which was leading towards the east, had already captured extensive territory in China. The Allied forces were then in a bad shape with food and medicine supplies cut off. Air support for dropping relief materials was prohibitively costly and risky. An alternative route was the need of the hour. This was exactly what Warren Stilwell was planning while sitting in his chamber in the Northeast Army headquarters in Shillong. A road to connect India and China. A road that would begin at Ledo, and this is how another war within World War II had been set in motion. The construction of the Stilwell Road.
The novel Ledo, which I wrote, is set in the backdrop of construction of the Stilwell Road.
We are joined by the writer and social activist Juri Borgohain.
The Singphos used to call this road as Ledo, which means the Ledo Road. Later on, this road became internationally known as Stilwell Road.
Stilwell Road. This is the story of another war, nestled in the history of the much-documented World War II. This story has found its place in literature. Ledo is a significant Assamese novel, and we met the writer Juri Borgohain at her residence in Chabua and talked about the theme of her novel.
In this novel, I have tried to cover the social reality behind the construction of the Stilwell Road. The construction of this road during the Second World War had brought it massive changes in the indigenous socio-economic structure of the locality. This was because many people from different places of the world had converged in this small township. The US Army was in charge of construction of the road, and therefore a huge quantity of machinery were brought in from the US. Thus came to Ledo an American truck driver named George Jonathan, who fell in love with a young migrant laborer girl from Odisha. In my novel, the road construction and love affair move on simultaneously. There were also some other elements like fear, sufferings, inclement weather, storm, flood, and above all, the dark cloud of the horror of the ongoing war, which was gradually becoming thicker. And finally, Jonathan goes back home, following his failed love affair. But he carries with him, among others, the memories of construction of the Stilwell Road.
1945.
This is the story of a bridge. It is a land bridge to China.
The stirring and eventful story of construction of the Stilwell Road was captured in great detail in a documentary film by the American War Office and British India Film Unit in 1945, which had President Ronald Reagan as the narrator.
The main span of this bridge, the Burma Road, was started by the Chinese after the Japanese invasion of eastern China in 1937. Now that route was to be traveled by caravans of guns and fuel, ammunition and food, across the land bridge of Burma to China, to keep that country alive in its struggle against Japan. 1 month after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese struck at the land bridge of Burma. This is the story of the destruction of that bridge, and of the men who fought and died to rebuild it, so that China could fight on. A defeated China would mean India invaded. The invasion started in January 1942. Both on the ground and in the air, the Japs had overwhelming superiority. General Alexander headed small forces of British, Indians, and Burmese, and General Stilwell commanded Chinese troops sent by Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek. The Japanese sought to cut off China's supply line from Rangoon to Mandalay, and then to the Burma Road. The Japs attacked Rangoon in force. The enemy swept on to central Burma. By the end of April, the Burma Road was cut. Alexander and Stilwell were forced to retreat. The task of reopening the land bridge of Burma was a tremendous one. General Stilwell's first act was the formation of an American command, CBI, China, Burma, India. From China came thousands of Chinese. From the independent kingdom of Nepal came the Gurkhas. From the Naga Hills, Naga headhunters joined forces with the Allies. From East Africa and West Africa came more troops. From Burma came the Burma Rifles, and from the Chin Hills, Chin and Kachin tribesmen. Scots, Irish, English, Welsh, Australian, New Zealander, Indian, Gurkha, Burman, African, Chinese, American. Never was there such a polyglot army. In the meantime, the end of 1942, a road was started. The Ledo Road. Starting at Ledo, the plan was to drive to a juncture with the Burma Road. Across the Ledo-Burma Road to Kunming in China. The Ledo Road was begun by a handful of men facing a task that had been called impossible.
An impossible job indeed, but it had to be made possible. Lord Wavell, the then Governor-General of India, the US Army authorities and the British administration, in a joint session, had decided to construct a road over the Patkai range of hills. This road would be the most effective passage to provide the Chinese army with emergency military support. General Stilwell, who played a pivotal role against the German army in World War I, was appointed as the representative of the US President Roosevelt, with the overall charge for construction of this road.
General Stilwell consulted the pages of history. With mounting excitement, he found references to an ancient road that fitted the bill. He immediately held a series of discussions with the local people. It dawned upon General Stilwell that this was the very road the founder of the Ahom kingdom, Horgodu Sukapha, had taken to cross the Hukang Valley and enter Assam to establish the 600-year-old Ahom kingdom. The road was still being used to smuggle opium from northeast India to China and to export traditional Assamese silk called Pat Kapur. This road was also used to maintain diplomatic ties between Shan rulers of Burma and the Ahom rulers from the time of Ahom king Sudangpa. Some portions of the road were badly damaged. Some parts of the road were through inaccessible forests. Other parts straddled high hills. General Stilwell resolved to renovate the ancient road that would provide a passage to China.
General Stilwell deputed a team of experts for physical inspection and the required survey. The political officer of what was then Assam, Mr. Walker, issued a request letter to Burma, and Murugam, an intrepid local Singpho youth, returned safe with the required letter of permission.
We are at 0 Mile in Ledo.
Traversing 46 kilometers by road, from Tinsukia, we arrive at 0 Mile in Ledo. The road to Ledo is said to be the longest straight road in Asia and the first ever oil refinery of India. The Digboi refinery is to be found on this road. Our eyes drink in the green grandeur of the Patkai range of hills that beckon from afar. The road is adorned by the flowing waters of the tributaries of the mighty river Brahmaputra, like the Buri Dihing, Tirap, Lekhonala and Namchik.
The road is lined with forests, rich in exotic flora and fauna. Small villages along the way inhabited by colorful ethno-linguistic communities like the Singphos, the Hajongs, the Tai Phakis, Tai Khamtis, Tai Khamyangs, Tai Ahoms, Tangsas, Misings, Rabhas, Deoris, Seminagas and Tea tribe communities enriched our journey no end. Even today, the presence of the people belonging to all these ethno-linguistic communities adds to the richness of this road.
At 0 Mile, we came upon a park. This park bears mute witness to some momentous events that history forgot. The text inscribed on a plaque in a corner of the park rendered us speechless for a while.
Beginning from here, the historic Stilwell Road traverses through Myanmar to Kunming, the capital of the Yunnan province of China. It was originally a 1,736-kilometer journey, running through lofty mountain passes, rainforests, swift rivers, gently undulating verdant valleys, and cultures. The Stilwell Road was conceived as the lifeline to Allied forces fighting the Japanese in Indochina.
December 1942, sleepy forested little Ledo town was suddenly catapulted into the happening zone. The township became the hub of the construction activities of a long road. Overnight, a warlike situation gripped entire Ledo and its surroundings. The Stilwell Road construction work got underway at 0 Mile in Ledo on a war footing. Thick forests were cleared to create a number of helipads and airfields. The quiet township of Ledo, all at a sudden, was humming with human and vehicular movement. Unabated noise of the construction machinery and the buzz of wartime vehicles would change Ledo's soundscape for all time.
To meet the extremely high demand of fuel for motor vehicles, a pipeline was constructed from Ledo to Karachi. In this way, required petrol and diesel were supplied to Ledo, Lekhapani and even to Kunming to ensure smooth movement of war vehicles.
The office in Itakola locality in Ledo was the then finance office, where transactions of crores and crores of rupees took place. Close to this office was the war post office, where lakhs of letters were received and delivered. The Ledo telephone exchange was updated by installing sophisticated machineries in order to ensure telephonic connectivity with all the major places and army offices of India. The entire telecom system was made so effective and powerful that capital cities of all the countries of the Allied forces were brought under telephonic connectivity.
All the public places like churches, clubs, cinema halls in and around Ledo thronged with people gathered there from various places in India and abroad. The entire township of Ledo had become a war zone. We came across a man who had witnessed the construction work of the Stilwell Road. We met him at his residence, and we were pleasantly surprised to find the old and ailing gentleman remembering every minute details of the event which took place 75 long years ago. Let us go back in time with him to 1941-1942.
I am Nobin
Chandra Phukar and I hail from Sabua. I was born in Dumduma on March 23, 1918. I had been to join a clerical job at Ledo during 1942. the road till then was only up to Ledo. From there onward, the road construction works were in progress. On reaching there, I found myself at a loss. On reaching the camp at night, when we were about to sleep, a lot of Japanese fighter planes turned up in the sky. But the Japanese planes did not resort to bombing. The planes threw down thousands of leaflets where it was written, "Destroy the British, Azad Hind Fauj." After some days, I was called for health checkup, and the physician in charge too had the same surname Fukon. He told me that before joining the job, I would be asked to sign a bond, and he advised me not to sign the bond. I became totally confused. The things appeared before me like the activities of a war front. Later on, when I was asked to sign the bond, I refused. 3-4 days had left, and I was not asked to join the job. During those days, I had witnessed many interesting, exciting, and even dangerous things. One day, I saw a survey team was coming towards our camp on an elephant. Someone in our side thought them to be Japanese army and had fired on them. All 4 persons died on the spot.
Thus, the construction of the Stilwell Road and unabated death went on hand in hand. At least one person died for every kilometer built. Died because of tree falling, landslides, owing to strange new diseases, snake bites, trampled by elephants, swept away by treacherous river currents, due to hunger, and even the fights that broke out among different groups of people. Road construction workers also died in the war that was going on simultaneously. Many died due to sudden attack by Japanese army and air raids by Japanese fighter planes.
Some dacoits living in the nearby villages also looted the workers and even killed many. Naga headhunters, while storming into the tents, chopped off and took away the heads of some workers. But such incredible odds and inclement conditions did not affect the construction work of the Stilwell Road. Work went on in full swing.
I was watching that from the opposite direction, many Burmese people who were evacuated from that nation were on the run towards India. Human and animal bodies were lying by the side of the road. The entire place had become like an epidemic-affected area. Even vultures and foxes were brought in from outside to eat up the bodies. After some days, I left that place and went to Tinsukia. There I witnessed the real horror of war. Flying of Japanese fighter planes atop the head was a very frequent scene. One day we saw one such Japanese fighter plane was coming down towards us, and from our end there was heavy firing on it. The gunshots hit badly the Japanese plane, and while flying wild like a dancing bird, it disappeared in the sky. Later on, the plane was found near Dumduma, and its pilot was a 19-year-old Japanese girl.
The job was never an easy one. The entire stretch of road was through tough and trying terrain, marshes, hills, rivers, streams, thick forests. General Stilwell had summoned a group of expert American Army officers and engineers. A lot of machineries and vehicles were brought in from the US in big ships. In all, 2,800 engineers gathered there along with Army personnel. The sleepy and silent township of Ledo came abuzz with activities. Power generators were installed along the road construction sites, and high-power electric lights created a day-like ambience even in the thick forests and adjacent abandoned areas. Construction work were carried out 24 hours a day.
People belonging to various castes, creeds, religions, languages, and races assembled there. Helipads were also constructed, and to the utter surprise of the people of Ledo, planes started flying. A number of temporary army hospitals also came up. Doctors, nurses, and paramedical staff from various countries were brought in. We met another such witness to this historic event, Bora, at his residence in Margarita.
I am Bora, and I live in Margarita. Lord Willis flew to Ledo from the US, and General Stilwell gave him the entire responsibility. Willis called up all the people engaged in road construction works and said, "I have been hearing the same things again and again, that this area is malaria-prone, rainy and damp, full of dangerous snakes, leeches and other creatures. We have to overcome all these and the road has to be constructed." His words worked like a tremendous inspiring force for all. And finally it was seen that having overcome all the odds, all the people had worked day and night, and thus Ledo Road was completed till Wanting in Myanmar. In Myanmar, the road got connected to Burma Road, which already existed there. This was the road by which Marco Polo, Genghis Khan had come. But the road was narrow with very low sustainability and frequent sharp curves. General Stilwell managed to repair that road, and after that it became wider with proper sustainability, and almost all the sharp curves were found nowhere.
The roads and townships in Burma were then devastated, and repairing work was being carried out with the help of Burmese labourers. In the Chinese portion, there were sudden attacks by the Japanese army to hamper the road construction work. 2 years and 2 months passed.
And in this way, road was prepared till Kunming in China. Total road length of both the roads, that is the Ledo Road and the Burma Road, is 1089 miles.
In December 1944, the road entered Chinese territory and reached Kunming.
On a historic day in January, the first convoy was on its way from India to China across the 1,044 miles of the newly completed Ledo-Burma Road, now called the Stilwell Road, in tribute to the man who had dedicated himself to the building of this great project. After a 24-day journey, the convoy arrived safely in Kunming.
During the road construction,
says Bora,
the whole team of workers had to negotiate with at least 10 dangerous rivers, and in all 165 bridges had to be constructed. Around 102 kilometers of the road was atop the Patkai hills, full of hilly streams for which innumerable culverts were constructed.
Chinese General Peak formally inaugurated the road on January 12, 1945. Thousands of people in Kunming greeted the arriving convoy of army vehicles by showering flowers and waving national flags.
The ancient road, which for the masses was the Ledo Road or Ledolam since ages, had arrived on the global scene as the Stilwell Road. The historic Ledo Road was no more. The Singpho tribe's very own Ledolam.
In Jairampur, there lies a cemetery which bears testimony to the trauma and pathos of the army men and workers engaged in construction of the Stilwell Road. Here, we met Orup Kumar Chaudhuri.
The Stilwell Road passes by the site of the war cemetery of Jairampur. From here, the distance to the Myanmar border is just 22 kilometers. The last Indian township before reaching Jairampur is Nampong, and it is also known as Hail Gate, the door of the Hail. The Phangsu Pass is just 22 kilometers away, and there you will find the Myanmar border outpost. The famous Lake of No Return is just 3 kilometers away from this place. In all, 1,018 Taiwanese army men were buried in this war cemetery. There are cemeteries of the Chinese army men also. All these army men died during construction of the Stilwell Road. This place was an abandoned one. There was a colonel of Assam Rifles who stayed nearby, and both of us often used to go for morning walk. One day, suddenly my feet hit something hard on the ground, and when I looked into the spot properly, this cemetery was discovered. We immediately apprised the government of India of this, and accordingly, the government of Taiwan was informed by our government. Soon came here the representatives of government of Taiwan, and they had carried out necessary inspection. Since then, this cemetery has been running with financial support from the government of Taiwan.
August 14, 1945. The horrors of Nagasaki and Hiroshima in Japan stunned the world. Japan bowed down before the Allied forces. World War II came to an end. The people engaged in Stilwell Road construction returned by the same road. Soaked with infinite memories, the road remains there. The road remains. Taking it, one can travel to Myanmar. But traveling beyond Myanmar on the road does not have political clearances and geographical security. That portion of the road connects China. The Government of India, through its Look East or Act East policy, may think of reopening this road, which will ensure new avenues for economic development, says Bora.
This is the road which carried rich traits of civilization and culture of the Far East to India. Therefore, the state government may put required pressure on the Government of India to take up effective measures for reopening the road.
I am Jagat Sangmai and live in Ledo. This road bears great historic significance because it connects three nations, India, Myanmar and China.
We had visited retired teacher and historian Jagat Sangmai's residence at Ledo. He feels strongly about the reopening of the Stilwell Road.
The Stilwell Road should be renovated and should be reopened, which will create huge avenues for socio-economic and cultural ties with the South Asian nations. The road will work like a tremendous effective means to increase India's economic transactions with the countries like China, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand and others. For India, Myanmar would be the gateway to the market of Southeast Asia. In this way, the Stilwell Road may work like the superhighway road network of the Asian countries, and this should certainly ensure massive changes in the economic scenario of India in general and the Northeast in particular.
The reopening of the Stilwell Road can go a long way in ensuring an easy road surface connectivity for India with China and other Southeast Asian countries. Let this historic road, steeped in war memories, come alive again. Let the sacrifice of blood and sweat by thousands of people be recognized again. Let there be a dignified tribute to the people from different countries who showed exemplary grit and determination to make possible such an absurd, impossible proposition like construction of the Stilwell Road. Let this road be a road to new horizons, the way for cordial and effective relationship with foreign countries, and a key to the development and prosperity of the northeastern region of India.